rejuvenate your youthful and vibrant vitality. So what can you do to walk these pathways regardless of what your biological age might be? Well, she's going to show us how to utilize this approach to support your choice of living a full spectrum life where you're thriving on all cylinders: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. So this 100th Pearl of Wisdom is indeed very, very special. And I know as someone who's 60, I'm always looking for that fountain of youth. And I think there's something more than just age is just a number. There's something else. And I'm sure Mynoo is going to bring forth tonight some very interesting perspectives on how we can just walk right into this youthful vitality with no effort at all. So thank you again for joining. We are going to take our time in unpacking this full spectral possibility where you can thrive on all cylinders. Thank you all for joining our 100th Pearl of Wisdom. Unbelievable. That means that we've not only been at this for 100 weeks, but we're guessing like maybe 120 weeks, because we also do the negative wisdoms. But tonight is our 100th Pearl of Wisdom. So once again, our 7 pathways so that you can reclaim, revive, restore, and rejuvenate. And this will bring you back to your youthful and vibrant vitality. So thank you all for joining. I'm excited. I always love to hear different possibilities on how we can have a full spectrum life and thrive. And that's what it's all about. So often we get in that place of survival. And I know that the one thing I have learned from Mynoo is embrace thriving. So that is where we are tonight. We will be thriving and figuring out how to support our own choice of living a full spectrum well-being life: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, environmental, and social. So thank you all for joining for our 100th Pearl of Wisdom, Youthful. And with that said, let's go ahead and turn it over to Mynoo Maryel. I can't wait.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, I have a little bit of an infection that's emerged this morning in my eye. So in case you see them watering a little bit, that's what is happening. Okay, let's begin. What a great one. And I just loved your TikTok that you shared with me yesterday on the same topic. Little did you know that that's what I'm going to be talking about.
On the same wavelength for sure.
Okay, great. So the 100th Pearl of Wisdom, I mean, my God, this one had to be the 100th. It's been a lot of fun for me, as I go through all of these Pearls of Wisdom, the 108, not knowing which one I'm going to be guided to do during that particular week. So that in itself has been a game that I've really enjoyed playing. So 100 Pearl of Wisdom, Youthful. And what is youthful? Youthful is really about having that vitality and freshness. Vitality and freshness that is often attributed to the youth. And, many of you have heard me talk about there is your biological age and there is your vibrational age. So youthful is available and accessible to anyone, regardless of what age they are. It is truly an ageless flow. And hence, this eternal youth is a phrase that is used because it is truly available vibrationally to anyone and everyone. So let's look at the first pathway. The first pathway is vigorous. Vigorous is strong, healthy, and full of energy. A pathway of strong, healthy, and full of energy. When I talk about a pathway to youthful, vibrant vitality, it's like you walk that path and youthful, vibrant vitality is your reality. So when we're talking about vigorous, strong, healthy, full of energy, And you may feel that you become an elder, or you may feel that there are various issues that you're experiencing, which are often associated with age-related conditions. And you're not feeling strong, healthy, and full of energy in that moment. So how can you walk this pathway? And this is one of those pearls of wisdom, which really is designed in such a way that you walk each pathway one after the other, and you become stronger and stronger and stronger. And hence this whole sequence of you reclaim, you revive, you restore, and rejuvenate your youthful, vibrant vitality. So being the vigorous enables you to reclaim. It's in the reclaim realm. So here, what I would do, and what I did do when I walked this pathway, is I chose to examine a lay of the land, and lay of the land of my life. And what I was looking at is, as I have grown older, where, in which instance, what environment did I feel strong, healthy, and full of energy? So this is where I did what I often recommend people to do, which is like literally go back. I talk about last 2 years, last 5 years, last 10 years. What I chose to do here is to actually go last 6 months. I'm 62, so last 6 months, last year, and that's how I went. And I was really looking for the vigorous rendition of myself, where I was expressing myself feeling strong, healthy, and full of energy. And I've really, looked at the nuances. Now, when I talk about this particular pearl of wisdom, really gets you to examine in a full spectrum way. So which incident, what environment, what was I doing, what was I thinking, where I felt vigorous, strong, healthy, and full of energy, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, and environmentally. So even though the last 6 months, I could have come up with lots and lots of times, there was often one or the other of the 6 cylinders that wasn't quite vigorous to the same extent. But I did find things. So I began by doing the last 6 months, then the last year. And then once I did that, and vigorous itself got anchored, that yes, this is my reality. It does occur. I then decided I'm now going to examine at the end of each week. So I became consciously aware of the vigorous pathway itself. So here's what happened. When I am examining and I'm looking at, okay, where did I feel strong, healthy, and full of energy? Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, and environmentally. And I look at it in the last 6 months. And then I start looking forward that, okay, I'm going to track it at the end of 7 days. But by me looking back, I have felt it in my cells, what that feeling of vigorous feels like. What is it? What do I even look like when I'm walking this pathway? What do I sound like when I'm walking this pathway? How am I feeling when I'm walking this pathway? So I really reawakened my cells to that experience. So then when I'm looking forward and I'm tracking, okay, in the last 7 days, where did this occur? I was surprised that even though in the last 6 months, I found like 4 very specific incidents where this was absolutely there. Then when I started looking forward, I found at least 2 each week where this was completely present. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to turn the volume up. I'm actually going to examine at the end of each day. Did I have a vigorous moment where I was well and truly walking this pathway? Now, I don't always get it every single day, However, every other day, I am in this vigorous state. So just by giving that attention to actually measuring or evaluating where you have had this experience of walking this pathway, it actually starts to multiply. The thing about youthful, vibrant vitality is it is regenerative. It is absolutely an experience that is a thriving experience. Anything that is thriving, where survival is taken care of, automatically has a lightness of being to regenerate itself. So, have a lot of fun doing this. It's amazing, in fact, awesome and amazing. Catherine's word. I mean, just to share an example of the last 6 months, when I looked at it for myself, one of the ones that I found was I was surprised. It was at a time where, if you recall, I had gone to this place where I was really experiencing medicine-free living, and I had twisted my ankle, and it hurt like crazy. And I was like confined to my bed, not just my bedroom, just to my bed. One of the moments was that. Now, I never thought about that moment as something that made me feel strong, healthy, and full of energy. And actually, when I looked at it, really examining it, I mean, I always allow myself to be guided, right? So in my guidance, I received that moment. And I'm like, okay, let's just look at how was I, vigorous physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, and environmentally. Physically, just the act of getting out of the bed and going to the bathroom and coming back really called for some serious strength, and it was during that time that I discovered the 124 trillion cells and realized, and because I had the time, I was there sitting on the bed, because I had the time, I was able to literally connect cell by cell by cell. And of course, it was like clusters of cells that came together, but it felt like I was connecting at a cellular level, cell by cell. And when I'm connecting to any of the 124 trillion cells, what I also saw was that vast majority of these 124 trillion cells in me are actually fine. They are pain-free. And this knowingness of being healthy and got anchored. Like nothing was going to shake me off that knowingness, because I had experienced it. And that in itself, at an emotional level, rather than feeling sorry for myself, I was so present to, wow, how lucky am I? That through this experience, I've actually connected to vast majority of my body that I have ignored completely, or I have not even been aware of. I have reconnected. And I know for a fact that most of me is actually fresh, vital, youthful, vibrant, full of energy. And a few of them are suffering right now. And they don't have to suffer alone. I can, now that I've made that connection, make a request of my own selves that let's give the energy of vitality to those that are struggling right now. And there was a moment where for a few days, even just lifting my foot off the bed even slightly, was excruciatingly painful. And it was in that time that I got the 124 trillion cells connection and just really went into very powerful visualizations of the connection to these 124 trillion cells. And then I started directing them, their attention and their energy, to the areas that were suffering. It's as if the top layer of my foot, which must have had those inflamed nerves causing me that excruciating pain, it's like a domino somehow. Something's like spread across it, and that the top layer felt like it had just healed. And I could actually take my foot off the bed onto the ground. And it was that the energy direction that I did. And what I saw there was, here I was for the last 2 days, just unable to even twitch my foot, let alone drag it and put it on the floor and stuff. And suddenly, in less than an hour, something has changed completely. Okay, the tendon inflammation was still quite strong, but I could touch my foot, and I could support it to, land itself on the ground. And that in itself filled me with energy. The overall experience of vigorous for me was like unequivocally, vast majority of me is actually youthful. The average age of our cells in our body is about 18 months, because our cells are birthed and they atrophy ongoingly. Energy signatures of what existed before remain, and what causes the energy signatures are physical and our mental experience keeps the energy signature in place. But that's okay. That energy signature doesn't apply to all the cells. It applies to certain cells. Vast majority of us are actually fine. So that direction of energy from those cells that are fine to those that are struggling can be done by anybody in any situation. It certainly reconnected me to my spirit. So spiritually, I started thriving. Socially, I actually became quite an interesting person to converse with, as opposed to people just coming to sympathize with me when I'm like moaning and groaning. People would come and hang out there, because they would have had a busy day and they would just love to sit and chat a little. So social dynamics started thriving as well. So it's literally like the vigorous vibe was like multiplying. Environmentally, my inner environment totally felt youthful, and somehow, as more people came in, the staleness that was accumulating in the room started disappearing. There was more of a flow of vibrancy. At this point, I wasn't sharing exactly what I was receiving because it was still a work in progress, but that vitality was certainly there on my face. I can see this wonderful light coming onto my face because the sun is rising just, in front of me. This youthful vitality in action. So have a go with this, and I know for a fact that because I was guided to examine this particular situation, which I did not think was a strong, healthy, and full of energy time in my life, and discovered that it really was, it anchored that youthful vitality in me so powerfully that when I chose to go for the next 7 days, it very rapidly, the vigorous aspect started showing up many more times. So you will enjoy this. massively. Let's look at the second pathway. The second pathway is vibrant. Vibrant. Vibrant is, what is vibrant? Vibrant is energetic, exciting, full of enthusiasm. So there you go. You go from feeling strong and healthy and full of energy into now you're energetic, and you can get excited and have that enthusiasm. I mean, you could totally imagine, this discovery of 124 trillion cells. The discovery really was 124 trillion cells has been talked about. So you can find it on YouTube and stuff. It wasn't something new that I'd uncovered, even though it came to me, it was this more than enough stuff that has been talked about it. The discovery really was that vast majority of them are actually perfectly fine. And they are youthful because they're quite fresh. A lot of them newly birthed. If I take the load of the energy signatures off, those cells really are, are full of energy. And that definitely got me excited. And I got very enthusiastic about, wow, how can I work with this? What more can I do with this? And especially when I saw that in that moment, when I discovered the youthful vitality of vast majority of that which forms my human body, it allowed me to connect to the possibility of literally anything is possible in terms of transforming my own physical being. And it got me to feel so enthusiastic with aliveness, really living my life on that bed. So when you do your lay of the land, this is where, as you're learning to walk this pathway, you reconnect to what was it like where I discovered the strong, healthy, full of energy vibe. And then you work through that, making that connection, and you will, excitement and enthusiasm for aliveness is literally guaranteed. That in itself gets you to feel youthful. I mean, you were sharing your TikTok video, Catherine, right? Like literally every scene was building up on the last scene, and it was like literally that vibrancy was multiplying. And therefore, when anybody watches that, their whole relationship to 60 completely transforms. And age in itself is a biological age. And okay, that's just counting the number of times you've gone around the sun, right? And what does the sun do? Sunlight is essential for sprouting new growth. And I've had 62 years around the sun. A lot of experience of sprouting new growth in every way. And knowing that physically we are, most of our cells are actually really youthful. And when you do your lay of the land examination, when you're walking the youthful pathways, it is always full spectrum. Sprouting new growth physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, and environmentally. And when I did this examination, sprouting new growth, and I was like really super enthusiastic at this point. I don't know if there's anyone here who knew me, but Dea, you are there. You'll recall before I went on my spiritual journeys, I used to have short hair, right? And, it just didn't grow. So when it was time to shave my head off, it was like, okay, it's only short, I'll shave it off, So I did shave it off. And now my hair grows, like I have to really manage it, It's interesting. I thought, okay, that's physical growth going on there. And then I went into mental growth. I mean, my intellect has become sharper, actually, way sharper than it used to be. There was a time, I think, in my 40s, and I attributed it to menopause, where, oh, the memory is fading and stuff like that. And it all just disappeared. And there's no memory fading happening at all. And I was like super sharp. And now that I've learned that, it's heaven that lies in the detail, not devil. I'd really, really mastered the art of understanding the nuance in any situation. So mentally, I've grown. Emotionally, I'm able to be in my center, and so there's definitely emotional growth that's there. And I can truly be present to someone else expressing, the fullness of a very deep emotion that they may be experiencing. Without being completely consumed by that, I can be present in my presence. That's an emotional growth. At any point in time, I do feel spirited, connected to my own spirit. I was like, yeah, that's true. It's real. So socially, by being present, connected to your spirit, in your center, you actually receive the other person or other people. So social dynamics is completely transformed. And I'm learning more and more about that. Definitely growing. Internal environment, I would say the 124 trillion cells discovery basically means anytime I feel out of sorts, or I feel like I might have, eaten the wrong thing and my body isn't feeling that great, I know that vast majority of my body is actually feeling brilliant and is youthful. So I can actually direct that part, and transform anything, any environment internally. Externally, I mean, it's like as if the external environment just started autocorrecting itself. I don't know how that happened, and I like my travels have increased, and this uncertainty, certain take nothing for granted. I mean, like literally stuff happens in my life where it's like, okay, it's time to travel here. And like right now I'm thinking, okay, I'm traveling today. I'll be gone for 2 days and then I'll be returning home. And I thought this time I'm going to be home for 6 weeks. Well, actually, it makes a lot of sense for me to go to Dubai around the 5th of June. So like, okay, this is, 3 days later. I may or may not do it. It doesn't matter. But there's something it's like the external environment somehow is sorting itself out. When you travel so much, you often land up living from a suitcase, and it feels a little bit, to me, it feels a little bit annoying to have clothes oozing out of the suitcase and clothes not necessarily being, clean all the time when you're traveling so much. I don't know how, but somehow there are people who come in and say, oh, we can handle your laundry without me even asking. And I'm just thinking about it. So it's quite magical. You just simply allow this vibrant pathway because it fills you with enthusiasm. And what does enthusiasm do? It multiplies. Excitement can take you to a peak and fizzle out. And in that peak, in the journey to the peak, it's fabulous. But when that excitement becomes enthusiasm is regenerative. It continues to multiply. Walking this pathway enables you to discover that. The third pathway is vital. Vital is absolutely necessary, essential. And it's like vitality, it has the power of giving a continuance of life. And vitality is present in all living things. So when you are examining your own lay of the land in the context of vital, you will, the reason why in this 7 pathways to youthful, vibrant vitality, you go through one after the other, because the first pathway, you discover various situations where you had that experience of vigorous. and youthful vitality was totally there. So by the time you get to the third one, you're using one incident and expanding it. You're going deeper and deeper and deeper into that. And as you're going deeper and deeper and deeper into that, you're anchoring it. You're going from data to information, to knowledge, to wisdom, to knowing. That journey is completing very powerfully. So when I looked at this one, the power of giving continuance of life, something that was present in all living things, absolutely necessary and essential. And I go back to that, that time in my life where I'm sitting on the bed, dealing with this sprained ankle. And that's where the discovery of the 124 trillion cells occurred. And I sort of really connected to, that was the time. And we've just recently done one beyond meditation where I got people to experience one cell. I literally got people to experience just one cell of their body. And the fullness of the experience of that one cell, that cell became the activator cell, and guided people to take that activator cell back into their bodies, right? Now that discovery happened here as I was in this third pathway of vital. And I saw the power of giving continuance of life that is present in all living things. Every cell in my body is a living thing. Every cell in my body is a living thing. And every cell has the power of giving that continuance of life. And this power is absolutely necessary and essential. And I have it all. I have it 124 trillion times in me. You see what it does to any lack or any fear that you might have? At this point, the fear of aging is like just non-existent. Just doesn't exist because you're present to the reality of what is. And what is agelessness. Is it okay with this light, or shall I bring the blinds down a little bit? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay. I can take it. So so it got me to really understand vitality in an experiential way. I would so strongly recommend that you just take it on. Take on walking these 7 pathways. You have 7 days between today and the 101st Pearl of Wisdom. Each day, just walk one pathway. That connection to 124 trillion vibrantly vital cells in your body. Even if you're feeling really awful, vast majority, it may be a few trillion cells. Vast majority of the 124 trillion are vibrant, youthful, free, unleashed, brimming with excitement in their innate vibration. Having the power of continuance of life. Any fear you may have of destruction or damage just disappears. You have the power of directing your own cells to dealing with any destruction that may be occurring. And you also get present to, by the way, that cells die and new cells are birthed all the time. And I've often heard people say the biggest fear that any human has is a fear of death. When you're walking these pathways, and particularly this vital pathway, you're very present to, okay, that's just a part of a normal cycle. Because as you connect to your cells, you connect to the destruction of cells, and you also connect to the birth of them, and you connect to the vibrancy of the vast majority that already exist. And the fact that you have the power for the continuance of your life, and because you have the power of continuance of your life, and that is a knowing that happens when you walk this pathway, you can focus your attention on living your life. And as a result, aliveness starts to happen. And that adds that vibrancy to vitality. And that is the youthful vibe. And hence the vibrational age. And Norman is someone that both Catherine and I know, and he often talks about, vibrational age between 17 to 24 is really the perfect age. Biological doesn't matter. We have many 90-year-olds who are biologically 24. But vibrationally, they are carrying the burden of a 90-year-old. And there are many 90-year-olds who are, vibrationally 17 to 24. That's the vibrant vitality. And where does this vibrational age come from? It's not just mental. It is full spectrum. It's not, and vibrational age is calculated by your own way of being. You feel it, and you feel it unequivocally. And you feel it unequivocally because it is all about thriving, not just firing. It's you're thriving on all cylinders: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. You walk this pathway of vibrant vitality is real. This is what happens. So I'm here in Pune, and there was my ex-mother-in-law passed away, and she was ill, but it all escalated very, very fast. And, and one day she was actually really had improved so much that she was going to be released from the hospital. And she just decided a few hours into that recovery that her organs were going to shut down. I think she got that surge of vitality to just be able to connect to her closed loved ones, because she had been in a comatose state prior to that. And then very rapidly, her conditions, her organs shut down, and then she passed away. So I'm here and, reconnected with people that I knew like 30 years ago and stuff, when they were tiny little girls. And now they are young women. And so one of the families here, and my son is also flown in. So I came in for her, really, that this is my first husband, where the domestic violence and all that was there. But I always had a really good relationship with my ex-mother-in-law, and I felt that I just felt energetically that it was important for me to be here to bring about a completion. So I was here, and my son, I really was only there for the cremation. I didn't need to have any other engagement with any other part of the family. But my son has been spending time with family members. So he was just saying to me that, it was really, really tough for this particular family, because, they had created such a good distribution business of health supplements, and that created all these shops, and their shops were the ones that were providing these supplements. And then COVID happened and all the shops shut down, and and they just haven't recovered because, online they're too old to be able to understand how this online stuff works. And I'm like, too old? What do you mean? Well, the father-in-law is 80, and his bipolar tendencies are becoming really worse. And, his son is in his, is in his 60s, and they are just doesn't understand very much of this online stuff. And most people are now buying online. They don't even go to shops, particularly to buy health stuff. They don't go into shops that much. They're buying because they can get it online. And he just doesn't know how to make that transition. So they're slowly and surely going towards bankruptcy. And then he says, oh, and I said to him, well, I'm 62 and that guy is 63, you know. And he says, well, you're not 62. That's a different type of 62. He goes, that's a different type of 62. I'm like, literally, this biological age is just a number. It's a vibrational thing, completely a vibrational thing. And yeah, I did visit that family after the cremation because they were the ones that were hosting my ex-mother-in-law before she went into the hospital. So I know the people that he's talking about. And I could completely see where he was coming from. And really, it was the youthful pathway of vital that I feel keeps me in that vibrational bracket of 17 to 24 without the stresses that I had at that age. I have the wisdom of my current years and the vibrancy of this youthful time. And the reality is, physically, the youthful existence is the reality of every cell in your body. So when your cells are loaded with age-related concerns, I mean, physically, there may be issues, and you can go deal with those physical issues. And sometimes those physical issues are also a lot of conversation going on that has been held, like, hip problems, knee problems after a certain age type thing, I also know from my own experience that, weight-related blood pressure and heart conditions and hypertension and knee issues, ankle issues and all of that, spine issues. I mean, I had severe spinal issues when I was 18. I have none at this age, and I am way heavier than my actual skeletal structure warrants for me to be. Okay, there's something that my body is going through to keep that, and it will shed it when it will shed it. And I don't have any of those conditions of blood pressure or hypertension or anything like that. But I did have them all at one time, so something has clearly shifted. So anything that might be a conversation that exists outside, you can actually, when you're working with your cells at a cellular level, you can just release those as beliefs that you've adopted. You can create your own beliefs. Hey, after all, your cells are birthing. They're quite fresh and new. They don't need to be loaded or burdened by beliefs that exist before. What if you were co-creating with your cells? Can you imagine how vibrantly vital that would feel? The good news is, at a soul level, there is a mission your soul has. So you can very freely work with your cells and co-create vitality, because you have the power of continuance of life, and you have it 124 trillion times over. So the fourth pathway is, I mean, I know many of you would love it. It's wonderment. It's the wonderment pathway. And what is wonderment? It's a state of awed admiration or respect. So it's like really you are in a state of awe, and you're in a state of admiring with respect that which you are applying the wonderment vibe to. Now, when you're walking the wonderment pathway in the context of this pearl of wisdom of youthful, vibrant vitality, wonderment in the context of what I said I'm going to be talking about, is in the realm of restore and rejuvenate. Because by the time you get to wonderment, you've already reclaimed your youthful, vibrant vitality. And as you work through vigorous to vibrant to vital, you've revived it. It's very real. You feel it. You're now ready to restore and rejuvenate. And this is where you go into wonderment. Wonderment multiplies. It is another one of those thriving, regenerative experiences. It thrives when you acknowledge it. So the wonderment thriving occurs in your acknowledgement. A state of awed admiration and respect. I mean, it's a given, right? Just even me sharing what I was experiencing sitting on this bed with my ankle sprained so badly. As I connected to myself, so by the time I got to this pathway, I was truly in a state of awed admiration and respect for my physical body. As opposed to being present to, I have so much that I want to share with the world, and the body isn't accompanying me. I actually was present to this awed admiration and respect of this human body, physical body. And when I started physically, and I thought, okay, I am here. What do I actually admire? And what is it that I would say I'm in awe of? My own physical being. And where do I feel tremendous, immense respect for my physical presence? I mean, and when I look at what I wrote, I feel it's not just what I wrote. I mean, I would just love to publish a book just with the words that emerged, And what if each one of you did this? And we created the 7 pathways to eternal youth as a book, following these pathways of what actually has emerged for each person. How amazing would it be? And just when I read that, I couldn't help but experience the vibe of admiration for what I had been blessed with by the divine. And look, I have the same physical body that you have. Okay, it looks different. Experiences may be different, but we have it. If I can go into that space of admiration and experience the awe of wonderment, you literally land in the space of grace, truly respecting every aspect of you. And when it got into that space of respect, it was like respecting the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, all of it, knowing fully well that the bad and the ugly are really something that's just peppering my experience to make it more interesting. Every moment, the divine has blessed me with the space of feeling completely safe and secure, knowing that vast majority of me is actually in a state of wonderment. At a cellular level, each cell, wonderment is anchored. When a baby takes birth, it's in awed admiration and respect of its soul presence. And then as it gets to know itself, I recall my 2-year-old, the first time he saw his shadow. And it was like, because I had chosen to have him as my teacher of baby steps, I was observing it very closely. Most people, we don't even notice when this first time happens, And since I travel a lot, I would take special effort of really being present to pick up any of the first times as this little baby was growing up. He was in complete awed admiration of his shadow. It was like it was a new friend that he'd found. And that friend would move with him and then disappear. And he would want to go crawling towards that friend. It was pretty amazing to see that awed admiration and respect, I don't know, but odd admiration was certainly going on there. And then translating it to where I experienced it in my life. And I can see that's why now, every other day, I have a collection of these evidences of youthful, vibrant vitality. Wonderment is a fabulous lay of the land stocktake. So let's look at the fifth one. I often get carried away and we have 10 minutes left, and usually the last 3 or 2 are rushed. So the fifth pathway is the pathway of water. Well, what's water as described in the dictionary? A liquid that descends from the clouds as rain, and it forms streams, lakes, seas, and is a major constituent of all living matter. Water is the major constituent of all living matter. And there has been sufficient work that has been done that proves that water, in fact, carries messages. And its cells get constructed or deconstructed or mutilated based on the messages that you are putting through it. So if given that your body is at least 70% water, in some areas it goes as much as 90% water, then you're able to, and you get to the state where you're in the state of wonderment, you're now able to automatically see these messages of vibrant vitality, wonderment, and all the work that you've already done in the pathways you've already walked, flowing through your body. And this flow of your water inside your body, as you even connect to it, and you are in this state of wonderment. And by the time you get to wonderment, you're already in this vibrant vitality experience. The water that is flowing through is carrying with it that vibrant vitality. When you give permission to your cells to release any energy signatures that don't serve you anymore, vibrant vitality starts to become your reality. And that's why the water pathway is an important one. And that's why it follows after wonderment. I'm just going to take a moment and pull the blind down because now there's a shadow that is coming up. So just hold on a second. That's a strange light. So hold on a second. Okay. So once you get to wonderment, it is important to really work through with the water pathway. And that is what does this pathway do? It literally brings you into a state of flow. Water as an element itself washes away the debris and brings flow. So the debris that it washes away when you're working through the youthful pathways is the debris that anchors aging as something that is a given. What is a given? This is what I got when I walk this pathway. Aging is not a given. What is a given is the youthful vitality. That is the reality. Aging is a meaning that we've given to it. Sure, there are certain physiological changes that occur. And there are certain physiological changes that occur by the number of times you've gone around the sun. That gives rise to maturity. But a mature oak tree is absolutely spectacular, as much as is a sapling from an acorn. So the water pathway washes away that debris of these dialogues that you might have anchored consciously or subconsciously. And it brings flow. What is it bringing flow to when you're working with it in this way? It's bringing flow to that youthful vitality. The sixth pathway is certainty. Certainty is a firm conviction that something is the case. It's the quality of being reliable. That's what the dictionary definition is of certainty. And sure enough, in what I uncovered for myself, when I arrived at the sixth pathway of certainty, this certainty of youthful vitality being the reality in which I live my life every single day was completely anchored. It became a knowing. Unequivocally, it became a knowing. And when it becomes a knowing, there is that vibe of it is, reliability that is there. It's a very distinctive quality of knowing, where there is firm conviction that this is the case. This is so. It is so that vast majority of your physical body, which is where aging shows up. And okay, you might have people go into, oh, we become forgetful, and that is a sign of aging. I mean, it really isn't. There's vast majority of older people don't keep forgetting. If that was what aging was about, then you would see everyone becoming forgetful. That does not happen. Vast majority of people do not do that. So anything that you feel so firmly about, that this is so, when you start examining the lay of the land coming from a space of youthful vitality, and you have gone through these earlier pathways, you literally start busting the myths that you have anchored. And you're able to release them, and new thoughts get created. And you just have to think those thoughts a lot. Keep thinking them, and they become your new beliefs, which give you a completely fresh experience of life, and you have youthful vitality even in your thoughts. The spirit of you is the spirit of you, whatever the age may be, but it is ageless. So spiritually, you start feeling really invigorated. Emotionally, you're in your center. You present yourself that way in the world as you're connecting with anyone. Social dynamics completely transform, and the environment around you rises to match where you are at. That's simply so. The seventh pathway is confluence. Confluence is coming or flowing together, where everything comes, flows together, meets and gathers at one point. Everything, what I've discovered for myself, everything comes together, flows together, meets and gathers in my physical body, which is the expression of who I am. Now, I discovered the physical body discovery when I started the pathway of vigorous. And from that, I literally used that same experience and went through all of the pathways, deepening my understanding of youthful, vibrant vitality. And this confluence of everything flowing together, meeting and gathering at one point. Literally, it was like all of these distinct cylinders were all there in me, and they were thriving, regenerating themselves ongoingly. Youthful, vibrant vitality is my reality. unequivocally. And it is so for everyone. Age is just the number of times you've traveled around the sun. That's it. The number of times you've had the powerful healing ability, the powerful magic of the sun to bring about this spurts of growth in you. You have the youthful vitality in your cells all the time. That does not change. Vast majority of you, on an average, is about 18 months old. You have the wisdom of the number of times you've gone around the sun. You have the strength and vitality that the sun automatically brings through the spurts of growth that you've experienced. So with that, you can literally experience the magic and wonderment of taking baby steps in every area of your life. Anything and everything is possible and feasible. Over to you, Catherine. Unmute, 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 unmute. Unmute.
It kept giving me an error message, like it didn't want you to finish. I know that I look forward to taking on walking each of these pathways, as you suggested, one day at a time to complete before our next Pearl of Wisdom. So I think if we all give that a go, it will be very interesting to see how much more connected we are to the vibrancy within in a full spectrum way. So this just gave such new insight and such fun to try to I'm going to say unpack it in our own lives, because it's already there. We just have to step into it. And Mynoo, thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. It's always a pleasure to see everyone. Love to you all. And next week we'll be here for 101st. So we've got a little homework, or I should say home play, before we meet again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.